Hi everyone, welcome to the TriEssence martial art channel. Again, hope everyone's still safe and healthy. I guess I'm gonna keep saying this until the crisis is over. And yeah, no one really knows when it will be. Even Beijing, which had no infection for almost 2 or 3 months, and then suddenly no new case for at least a month, I think. And then suddenly had a resurgence. Someone got it out of nowhere again, so now everything on lockdown again. And the rest of the world is, I don't think is any better, if not worse. So we don't really know what's gonna get better, but hope everyone still remain patient and careful, don't get infected. Alright, so recently I've got quite a lot of positive feedback from this fact or fiction video series, which I'm quite happy. And I'd just like to say that these videos are going to offend people, okay? And I'm okay with it. So if you don't want to get offended, then I guess you should just not watch it. Unfortunately, that's the nature of this type of videos. Nothing I can do about it. It's not that I'm trying to be nasty or I'm mean to people. It's just that when you dig into the truth, you're gonna offend people. However, I guess on the other hand, at least I tried my best to be neutral and not to be biased. I mean, I do have bias towards some people and some lineage, etc. And when those things comes up, I'm gonna try my best to always remind the viewers that in this point I'm biased because this and that. I would not try to pass on my biased opinion, as the factual truth. I try to avoid that, as much as I can. And in the near future, like I said, I am going to discuss about my own grandmaster who are both controversial, right, from my Taichi side, Wu Tunan and Shiming. So it's not that I only look at other people and find mistakes and issues with others. I'm equally fair to my own lineage. So I'm not trying to just only pick on certain people, right? So if you are reasonable and logical and rational, you shouldn't really be offended. But if you do, there's nothing I can do, and I'm not gonna apologize either because I'm not trying to trash talk any lineages. I'm just trying to present facts versus fictions that people tell as the origin or whatever claim we're discussing. So today we're gonna talk about a very controversial topic, I guess, within the Yang style Taichi. We're going to be talking about Taichi for quite some time, right? There's a lot of topics that can be covered in Taichi. And after that, we'll maybe move on to other martial arts or lineage or masters or topics. So today we're going to talk about the Michuan Yang family Taichi, right? Michuan basically means secret, right? Mi means secret, Chuan means passing on. So it's like a secret lineage of Yang style Taichi. And for those of you that don't know about this lineage, I'm gonna briefly talk about the claim and then look at why the claim is true or isn't true. And again, this video will probably piss off everyone from that lineage, which I'm okay with. But I'd just like to say that my intention is not to piss them off, right? It's just that I find discrepancies and fabrication in the claim, which I believe should be rectified for the record. So if you are from that lineage and you will be offended, then you should stop watching this video, right? You have been warned. And if you carry on watching, then that I don't feel sorry if you're offended. Alright, so basically this Michuan Yang family Taichi lineage, it comes from Taiwan, right? And it's basically founded by a master called Wang Yannian. I don't really know how his name is spelled in Taiwanese spelling, so I'm not going to write it on the board. The Taiwanese spelling of Chinese letters is different to the mainland China version. So they might pronounce similar, but they spell it completely different, right? So this guy is called Wang Yannian. I think he passed away already. And while we're on that topic, a while back someone was telling me, I should leave dead people alone, should honor them. I don't agree with that. I think whether you're dead or alive, it doesn't matter in front of anyone who's seeking for the truth, right? So I don't think just because someone is no longer alive, then we should give them an easier time on the lies they spend. Alright, so this person died already, and I have not met this person, so I can't comment on his actual skill. So this video is not about whether he's a good Taichi practitioner or not. It's about the claim of lineage that he tells people how genuine that claim is or is not. Okay, you must keep that in mind. So this is nothing to do with his personal Taichi ability, his Pushan ability, his fighting ability. That is something completely different. We're only looking at his lineage claim. So according to his story, he learned from a master called Zheng Qinlin. Okay, this person is not to be confused with Zheng Qinlin. Right, there are two persons of similar name. They're not the same character in Chinese, so it doesn't get confused in Chinese. But in English, it can be confusing. One's Zheng Qinlin, one's Zheng Qinlin. Right, Zheng Qinlin is like related to Yang Chengfu. I think either his godson or something. It's like a family relative to Yang Chengfu. This Zheng Qinlin is somebody else, right? So don't confuse the two. It's really get confusing when you're using English spelling on Chinese names. So this Zheng Qinlin, according to Wang Yannian, right, the passed away Taichi practitioner in Taiwan. So according to him, his master Zheng Qinlin, he started working in the Yang family at the age of 14 as a regular worker, and eventually the Yang family saw he's got talent and took him as a disciple and taught him Taichi. And the person who did that, according to the today's version of the story, is that Yang Jianhou, right? The head of the second generation Yang family, Yang Jianhou. He's the one that eventually converted Zheng Qinlin into a Yang family disciple. And so therefore he, according to the Taiwanese claim, he falls under Yang Jianhou. So that means he is a third generation Yang family practitioner. Now these will become important at a later point, so just keep a mental note for the time being. Alright, so he started training under the Yang family, and he has exchanged push hand and stuff with Yang Chengfu and with a lot of other Taichi brothers. Okay, then around 1903, according to Wang Yannian's account, something happened. Basically, according to him, a martial artist from Hunan province, right? I've also seen accounts say that he's from Hubei province, but this is not really important in this discussion. So a martial artist from the south, essentially, with a surname of Wan, right? In China, we call it Wan Mou Ren. It means that they skip the name, just say someone with a surname of Wan came to the Yang family's estate to challenge Yang Chengfu. I've also read an account where this person with the surname of Wan, or we just call him Mr. Wan, he challenged Yang Jianhou. I read that quite a few years ago. When I was looking up again, I can't find exactly where this source of story come from. That this Mr. Wan challenged Yang Jianhou instead of Yang Chengfu. But I definitely remember reading someone who was saying that was the case. But according to Wang Yannian, and as well as others, from the Zheng Qinlin branch from other places like in China, this Mr. Wan challenged Yang Chengfu. Okay, and then for some reason Yang Chengfu does not wish to fight him. Okay, some say it's because, like Wang Yannian's account is that because Yang Chengfu doesn't know what does Mr. Wan want, so therefore he doesn't want to accept the challenge. There's another account where Yang Chengfu was playing mahjong the night before and he wasn't really feeling well. So there are various accounts and excuses as to why he does not want to take up the challenge. But either way, Zheng Qinlin is supposed to have stepped up instead of Yang Chengfu and said that you want to fight Yang Chengfu, you have to fight me first. And then again, there are various accounts on how this challenge played out. But either way, all these accounts claim, of course, all these accounts that come from the Zheng Qinlin branch claim that Zheng Qinlin won the duel. And Wang Lansheng basically walked away or ran away. And all of this happened while Yang Jianhou was present, and he saw how Zheng Qinlin defended the Yang family honor and prevented his own son from having to accept the challenge. And he was very pleased about that, and therefore he called him to his bedchamber in midnight and started teaching him the secret Yang family Taichi, right? The Michuan Yang style Taichi. So, and while doing that, he basically explained to Zheng Qinlin, right? Again, this is Wang Yannian's account. He told Zheng Qinlin that even though his father, Yang Luchan, right, the founder of Yang family Taichi, was basically working in Beijing and got a job teaching the imperial prince, right, Duanwang, and also teaching other important figures and Manchurians who are associated with the government. Even though that is his job, he does not actually like Manchurian, right? Deep inside, he roots for the Han people to take back their kingdom, and which is why he secretly taught them the wrong stuff. Essentially, he's basically teaching them a fake Yang family Taichi, and the real Yang family Taichi is only taught to his own family. Okay, and because they do not want to risk the chance of those Manchurians finding out, they can only teach them at midnight, only to very selected disciples. And these disciples cannot ever tell outsiders or regular students or disciples about this, right? They can never display this martial art in front of other Taichi brothers either. Otherwise, if they do, it will risk exposure and it will bring disaster to the Yang family from the Manchurian authority. Now, this is a very well thought story, okay, in order to explain why they have a special Taichi that other people don't have. However, as well thought as the story is, it does not fit or does not make rational sense if we look at it from other angles, right? So, for example, the whole notion of Han people versus Manchurian, or Fan Qing Fu Ming, right, getting rid of the Manchurians and restoring the Ming Dynasty, was a popular notion when the Manchurians first invaded China. Okay, and later on, this notion is still found toward the southern part of China, where they still have armed rebellions against the Manchurians, such as the Triad. Okay, Tiandi Hui essentially. But in the north, everyone pretty much accepted the Manchurian rule, especially people in Beijing and around the Hebei province, right? They don't have a problem with the Manchurians anymore. It only happened in the early days of the Manchurian invasion. And Yang Luchan lived in the mid to late Qing dynasty, right? He doesn't have people at that time do not have beefs against Manchurians anymore. And if he doesn't like Manchurians, he could simply just refuse to teach in the imperial palace. Not imperial palace, in the imperial city. He doesn't have to go there. No one is forcing him. No one putting a gun to his head and say, you have to come and teach the prince. No, he wanted to teach the prince because it will give him a chance for a better life, a better earning, right, and provide a better social standard for himself and his family. And furthermore, one of his main disciples, which is Wu Quanyou, right, he is Manchurian and he works for the government. Wu Yuxiang's brother also works for the government. So if Yang Luchan will have to conceal the real martial art from the Manchurians, he will have to conceal it from almost everyone, right? And if that theory stands, then Wu Quanyou, Wu Jianquan, the entire Wu family lineage would have to be fake. And the Wu Yuxiang lineage would also have to be fake, because if Yang Luchan told the real thing to Wu Yuxiang's brother working in the government, this story, this problem would eventually come out, because you can't cover up something like this forever. And furthermore, Yang Luchan has one of his more famous disciples called Wang Lanting. Okay, he's actually a steward for the prince. So that's how he also started learning under Yang Luchan. So Wang Lanting actually during his travel at some point, he encountered a guy called Li Ruidong. And Li Ruidong was so impressed with Wang Lanting's skill that Li Ruidong eventually learned Taichi from Wang Lanting. And so for those of you who don't know, Li Ruidong eventually became the #1 hand of Tianjin, right? He's the best martial artist in Tianjin. So if Yang Luchan had to teach everybody fake stuff except his own son and this Zheng Qinlin, then not only does Wu family have to be fake, Wu Yuxiang have to be fake, then his own disciple, Wang Lanting, have to be fake too. And so how does Wang Lanting impress Li Ruidong with his martial skill? To a point where Li Ruidong actually adopted Taichi and basically mixed it with his own martial art and formed what they call Taichi Wu Xing Zhui. And now I think they call it the Li family Taichi to the West. unless Li Ruidong is also fake, then how does he become number one in Tianjin? You see, so this doesn't make sense, right? So the point is, it's impossible that Yang Luchan taught the fake style to the Manchurians and keep the real style among secret Han people, his own family, and selected students like Zheng Qinlin. This story just does not hold up the moment you start looking at it from various other angles and putting other evidence that does not support this claim at all. And after that, so he supposedly spent 33 days every day going to Yangjianhou at midnight to learn this secret lineage of Yang family Taichi. And after that, naturally, eventually became a master in his own right. And then he went to Shanxi province and he defeated everybody over there, got like a title of almost like undefeated. And then eventually he went to Nanjing and partook in the 1928 Nanjing Goshu Academy's contest and became number one there. And eventually took many students, including this Wang Yannian, who later on relocated to Taiwan and formed the Michuan Yang family Taichi Association, whatever they call it, and then started this whole branch of Taichi practice. So that's pretty much how the story goes according to the Taiwanese Association. Now, according to the Chinese branches of the same Zheng Qinlin, right, the same lineage, they also had a part where this Zheng Qinlin, after learning from the Yang family and then traveling around, he was training in some Taoist mountain, and he met a Taoist priest who, after watching him practice, pretend that he was like crippled and can't walk, and asked this Zheng Qinlin to help him back to his place where he lives. And when this Zheng Qinlin touched him and tried to hold him up, Zheng Qinlin himself bounced back and flung his ass. He got up, he tried to hold the Taoist up again, and he fell again. And then he realized this Taoist guy is like a secret master. And it turns out this Taoist guy is like a secret disciple of Yang Luchan, right, the founder of Yang family Taichi, that nobody knows, but he's like a secret disciple. And he told him that Yang family actually has 3 forms. The first form is the one that they teach everyone. The second form is the one that Yang Jianhou taught him in secrecy. That's why he recognized the second form, and therefore he knows he's like a secret disciple. And then he taught him the third form that supposedly even Yang Jianhou doesn't know or doesn't want to teach him. It's unclear. But so according to this story, Zheng Qinlin has 3 separate Taiji forms, which supposedly makes the complete Yang family system, and anyone who doesn't have all 3 forms is therefore incomplete. I'm not sure if the Taiwanese branch has the same claim, but I do know they do have 3 forms, so I don't know how to explain that. On the website, they didn't mention about the secret disciple of Yang Luchan. They didn't mention him as they didn't mention that Zheng Qinlin did meet this specific Taoist priest on the mountain and learn Taoist internal practice. They didn't mention that he was also a disciple of Yang Luchan and taught him the third form. Now, I don't know if this has always been the case, or they did tell about the story initially and later on revised it, because it's actually very hard to sell the story. Either way, on the website they don't have this portion of the story, but this portion of the story is found in other branches from Zheng Qinlin. Okay, and the Taiwanese branch, as far as I know, do have 3 separate Yang family forms that they claim is equally important in becoming the complete Yang system. Okay, so this is pretty much and one more thing, right? According to Wang Yannian from Taiwanese organization, Zheng Manqing, right? I think some of you know him as Cheng Manqing, with Taiwanese spelling, right? He's a very famous Tai Chi practitioner who first went to America and taught Tai Chi, etc. According to Wang Yannian, Cheng Manqing is actually a disciple of Zheng Qinlin, right? But obviously, Zheng Manqing himself and the disciples and lineages, they clearly believe that Zheng Manqing is a disciple of Yang Chongfu, right, the head of the 3rd generation Yang family. So this is already a discrepancy. They say, so Wang Yannian guys say that Zheng Manqing actually learned from his own teacher, but Zheng Manqing said he learned from Yang Chongfu. This we'll discuss a bit in a later point as well. So this is pretty much the claim, and now we're going to look at the problem, right? So first of all, According to Zheng Qinlin's own daughter, who still resides in China, mainland China, and not Taiwan, according to her version of her father's story, as well as other members of that branch, Zheng Qinlin actually learned from Yang Chengfu, not Yang Jianhou. Alright? What this means is, according to the Taiwanese side of the story, Zheng Qinlin is one generation higher than according to his own daughter's account of the history. And this is quite important, right? I don't know, for those of you who aren't familiar with traditional Chinese martial art or Chinese culture in general, generation and like family tree ranking is pretty important. Okay, so to raise yourself to a family, to the generation above your current one is considered as a massive taboo. It's very much frowned upon, right? Back in old days, blood would be spilled when something like this happens. It's a very bad thing to do. Now, personally, I believe that Zheng Qinlin studied with Yang Chengfu and not Yang Jianhou. Okay, I mean, well, age-wise, he could be old enough to study under Yang Jianhou, right? Because basically, Zheng Qinlin is about 3 or 4 years younger than Yang Chengfu. So they sort of belong to the same generation age-wise, okay? So from that point of view, you could argue that he would be placed under Yang Jianhou. However, according to Zheng Qinlin's own family, right, his own daughter and people from that branch, they all clearly state that Zheng Qinlin falls under Yang Chengfu and not Yang Jianhou. And furthermore, there's a guy called Ye Dami, right? He's also one of the better known disciples of Zheng Qinlin, and he wrote basically like a book or like a text that basically summarizes his own master Zheng Qinlin's life story. And in that text, he actually mentioned that Zheng Qinlin only met with Yang Chengfu around the age of 38 and became a disciple. Now, if that is true, that's long past the date where Yang Jianhou passed away, right? So that means Zheng Qinlin could not have even met with Yang Jianhou, never mind becoming his disciple, okay? And even though the age is similar to Yang Chengfu, when the second generation's masters all passed away and you want to learn Taichi, you have no one else, you have no other option other than falling under Yang Chengfu. So even though the age are similar, it does not mean he will naturally fall under the second generation, not the third generation. And of course, if he was under the second generation, I see no reason why his own family member, as well as Ye Dami and other branches who extend from Zheng Qinlin in the mainland China region, they would not want to, exploit this, right? Not exploit, but like, they want to profit from this, right? It's always cooler to be from a generation higher than a generation lower. So that is why I don't believe Zheng Qinlin is remotely possible to actually be a disciple of Yang Jianhou. What this would suggest that the Taiwanese branch under Wang Yannian somehow wanted to elevate themselves one generation ahead. And I can't really tell you the exact reason why, because you're gonna have to ask them. And even if you do ask them, they're probably not going to tell you the truth. But we can speculate, right? But okay, so I'm gonna say that this is speculation. This is not hard fact. My personal speculation as to why they changed it. Obviously, it could be that Wang Yannian forgot and then got confused and then told the wrong info. But I personally think that is not very likely because again, in the Chinese martial art tradition, who you learn under, who you masters under, this whole generation family tree thing is pretty serious, right? People don't joke around with this thing, and the chance of someone misremembering it is pretty slim. Another speculation is that when Wang Yannian went to Taiwan at the time, there are other masters teaching Taichi in Taiwan. In one particular one is Cheng Manqing, right? Cheng Manqing, well, whatever pronunciation you prefer. And he's actually a disciple of Yang Chengfu. So if Zheng Qinlin is a disciple of Yang Chengfu, that makes Wang Yannian one generation lower than Cheng Manqing. And obviously, again, like I said, generation is like a big thing in Chinese custom. And to a lot of the old school people, even people today, right? If I can learn from a third generation master, I naturally assume that it is better than learning from a fourth generation master, right? They want to learn from the people that are higher up in the generation tree. This obviously is not always the case. What I mean is, someone from the third generation might not necessarily be as good as someone from the fourth generation, right? It all depending on the teaching they receive, how much effort they put in, how good they can teach. So being on a higher generation tree doesn't automatically make the person a better master or better practitioner. However, it is a Chinese custom to favor that over other qualities, which is why it is my speculation that Wang Yannian elevated his generation so that he can be on equal ground with Chong Manqing and not be looked down upon, right? And also the fact that he claimed Zheng Manqing actually is a disciple of Zheng Qinlin, whereas Zheng Manqing claimed that he's a disciple of Yang Chengfu, also kind of hints towards some kind of competing for market between these two organizations. But like I said, this is only speculation, right? There's no hard evidence for this. As to exactly why he wanted to change his own master's connection to Yang Jianhou instead of Yang Chengfu is your own game, right? You can make up your own decision. Next, we can also look at the encounter with the challenge from a guy with surname of Wan. So Wang Yannian did not mention who this person is, but we can pretty much all guess for certain that this is referring to Wan Lai Sheng. Okay, so it's Wan Lai Sheng. Right, he's a famous figure that used to do Shaolin Six Harmony first, and later on studied under Du Xingwu and learned Ziranmen style. Right, we might talk about him at a later episode. But over here, we just need to know that Wan Lai Sheng is the person that they're all referring to, the person that went to challenge either it's Yang Jianhou or Yang Chengfu. Now, of course, if we look at the actual date of event, right, the person that this Wan Lai Sheng challenge had to be Yang Chengfu and not Yang Jianhou, okay? Because we pretty much know for certain that this conflict between Wan Lai Sheng and Yang Chengfu happened around 1926, okay, more or less around that time. And Yang Jianhou passed away around 1917, so this event happened 9 years after Yang Jianhou passed away. And what this also means is that the whole Wang Yannian's claim that Zheng Qinlin defended Yang Chengfu in front of Yang Jianhou, which pleased him so much that he secretly taught him, the Michuan Yang style. It could not happen because when this conflict happened, Yang Jianhou was not there anymore. He's dead. Okay. But of course, according to the Wang Yannian's account, this conflict actually happened on the third Mingguo 3年, right? That's on the third year of the Republic era, which means it's supposed to happen on the 1903. Okay. And if that's happened on that day, then of course Yang Jianhou was still alive and the story could happen. However, Wan Lai Sheng, right, he actually was only born on 1903, okay, and the newborn baby can't come out of his crib and challenge Yang Chengfu or Yang Jianhou. It just can't happen, okay. So so basically, we should be glad that people who make up these stories didn't have access to this information like we do today. Otherwise, they will probably be able to fabricate a tale that are much harder for people to see through or to disprove. And and even if we look at the year that Yang Jianhou died, 1917, Wan Lai Sheng is still just 14 years old, right? So even to the day that Yang Jianhou died, Wan Lai Sheng is still too young to come and challenge Yang Chengfu, who is much older at the time already, was already an adult, right? A 14-year-old kid challenging an adult is not gonna happen. And if that do happen, you don't need someone else to defend Yang Chengfu's honor. And in case you wonder, maybe the person with the surname of Wan is referring to somebody else. Well, Wan is not a very common surname in China, right? It's not like Li, Liu, Wang. Those are very common surnames. Wan is not. And it's even more scarce within the Chinese martial art community. The only reasonably famous martial artist with a surname of Wan at that era is Van Laisheng. It cannot be somebody else. And the fact that Van Laisheng did indeed challenge Yang Chengfu, further confirms that the person they're referring to have to be Van Laisheng. And like I said in the last episode already, there is detailed account to what exactly happened between Van Laisheng and Yang Chengfu. Now, for just in case you haven't watched the last video, we'll do a quick recap. So basically, Van Laisheng came to Yang Chengfu's teaching ground, which is in the what they call 中山公园 today, or 文化宫. So basically, it is if you're facing the Forbidden City's main gate, right, Tiananmen Square. If you stand from Tiananmen Square facing the Tiananmen, the main gate of Forbidden City is on your left-hand side. That portion, it used to be part of the Imperial Palace. Now later, after the Republic area, became a park, and Yang Chengfu teaches over there. Van Laisheng basically came there and claimed that he wanted to learn Taichi. And Yang Chengfu said, "Oh, sure, you're welcome." Then he said he wanted try out push hand. He's done some Tai Chi before. And then Yang Chengfu obliged, so they started push hand. And during push hand, Van Laisheng grabbed Yang Chengfu's thumb and used a joint lock technique and dislocated it. And after that, he basically ran away. I wouldn't say ran away, but he basically escaped the location and just started telling everybody that he defeated Yang Chengfu. The reason we know that this event happened pretty much like this is due to multiple accounts. First of all, there has been almost like a introduction to Van Laisheng in one of the Republic era texts that mentions that after went to Beijing, he Taichi, which means sneak attack. One of the prominent Tai Chi master didn't mention name, but we don't know who it is, and became successful. So it is part of an introduction to him in some article. And furthermore, like I said in the last episode, after this event happened, Yang Chengfu's disciple Chen Weiming contacted Van Laisheng's elder brother in Shanghai, and his elder brother eventually had to publish a public apology in the Shanghai newspaper, saying that what his brother did is wrong and he apologized in his stead. And furthermore, Van Laisheng's Liu He first master Zhao Jinzhou also had to basically hire a restaurant and make a treat to Yang Chengfu and other members of the martial world and make an open apology for his disciples misbehaving. So this event definitely did happen, but it did not happen in the Yang family mansion or house. Okay, it happened in the park. So again, that is different from what Wang Yannian and the Taiwanese Michuan Yang family Taichi claims. So the person is different, right? It's Yang Chengfu, not Yang Jianhou. The location is also different. And the outcome is also different because in this account, Zheng Qinlin did not interfere or defeat Van Laisheng, right? If he did interfere and defeat Van Laisheng and Yang Chengfu didn't have his thumb dislocated, then there will be no reason for Van Laisheng's older brother to make a public apology on the Shanghai newspaper. And Zhao Jinzhou also would not have the need to also make an apology to the Yang Chengfu and the Yang family for his disciples misbehaving, right? If Zheng Qinlin actually won, then all is good, right? There's nothing lost, and therefore there's no need for apologies. But the fact is, they did make apologies, so that means Yang Chengfu definitely was victimized during that encounter. So maybe Zheng Qinlin was there when this event happened, but I doubt he actually interfered and defeated Van Laisheng. Not saying that he's not as good as Van Laisheng, right? I'm not saying that. It's just that this whole encounter probably did not happen. And if this does not happen, then obviously the follow-up story of whether it's Yang Jianhou or Yang Chengfu calling him to his bedchamber in the middle of the night to teach him a secret version of Yang family Taichi is also probably not real, right? So obviously, if you look at if Yang Jianhou was the person that did this, that means he didn't teach his own son the secret Taichi, but taught an outsider, Zheng Qinlin. That basically doesn't make sense. And if he did teach Yang Chengfu, then how come no one else from Yang Chengfu's branch have the second or the third Yang family form? This whole claim you can only find within the Zheng Qinlin branch, nowhere else, right? And it's almost impossible for Yang Jianhou to teach an outsider the secret but not his own son. Unless you think that maybe his own son was lazy or not hard at practice and therefore didn't learn it. But like we said in the last episode on the downfall of Yang family, that's most likely not the case, right? Yang Chengfu just wasn't a fighter. He had no fighting experience. He can't fight. It doesn't mean that he really sucked at his own family art. And even if he does, right, being a father, he will still not hold back to his own son. That's just how Chinese family and Chinese culture works. So it's very unlikely that if Yang Jianhou had a secret form, that he taught Zheng Qinlin but not Yang Chengfu. As for Yang Chengfu teaching a secret form to Zheng Qinlin and not anybody else is also highly unlikely, because while Zheng Qinlin is a disciple of Yang Chengfu, he's definitely not one of the main disciples. Okay, if you look at the books that Yang Chengfu published in 1934, at the back of the book, he listed all the major disciples under Yang Chengfu. I think that either 24 or 30 names. Right? I can't remember exactly. I read that book very long ago. And like I said before, I'm not really like a historical researcher in martial art. I'm actually a practitioner. I'm only making these videos because there is so much misinformation floating around internet these days, especially in the West. So I don't remember all these dates and numbers because I'm not a historical researcher. I'm only making these videos because no one else seems to be making them. Alright, so I don't remember exactly how many names. It's either 24 or 30 or 34. I can't remember exactly, but there's like a whole list of Yang Chengfu's key disciples in his book, and Zheng Qinlin's name was not among them. So I'm not saying Zheng Qinlin is not a disciple of Yang Chengfu, but he's definitely not one of the most important disciples, right? I mean, for your information, Zheng Manqing's name was on the list. So it will not make sense that Yang Chengfu secretly taught Zheng Qinlin, one or two other secret Yang family form, but did not teach his main disciple that he thought was worthy to include in his own book. That just doesn't make sense. Okay. And obviously, I also said in the last episode regarding Banhou Taichi and Shaohou Taichi, I don't believe they're actually a secret form in Yang family. In fact, I don't believe that the form or the frame or the movement is actually what makes Taichi work or does not work. Okay, this mindset is a very external based mindset. What I mean by that is in external style like Mantis and Shaolin or whatever, all these other external martial arts. Let's take Mantis for example. Their combat ability is very much focused on technique, right? They have a secret technique that works. Like they'll hit here, and then when they grab the hand, they'll trap here and do a circular hook. And when they do that, when they block this, they will turn around and do like a back fist, etc. So they work on techniques. So if the master would hold back on a certain technique and don't teach it to you, then you don't have that technique. So for them, so the secret technique is almost a technique that works really well, like a combo that always gonna work or have a high chance of success. And for example, just like a move where you can bait a guy and then hit his balls, for example, that would be considered a secret technique. And the master would only teach a selected disciple that he trusts the secret technique because it's more efficient than the regular stuff he teach everybody else. So the secret form, a secret technique, something that once you know the movement, you have an advantage. It's a very external Chinese martial art mentality. Okay, in the internal martial art, it is very different. The whole idea of internal martial art evolves around the quality of motion, body mechanics, the 4 fundamental forces. Or in case of Taichi, it's the 10 principles. Okay. So if you have those 10 principles, and you can express them in your Taichi movement, then you've got the essence of Taichi. If you don't, then you don't have it. It doesn't matter if you do 108 steps, 84 steps, or even 24 steps, right? Or even 13 steps, or even 2 steps. It does not matter. What matters is the quality of motion. So the idea that you have second and third secret form, and that's what makes the Taichi complete. In my opinion, that's an evidence of someone who doesn't understand what Taichi or internal Chinese martial art is all about. Okay, for example, Guo Yunsheng from Xingyi, right? He's famous for using Bengquan, only one out of the 5 elemental first, and he didn't even learn the complete 12th animal. Okay, he just learned Hu Pu, the tiger pounds. He knows the 5 elemental first, but he only focused on Bengquan. And yet, he's one of the most respected Xingyi practitioner, teacher, and fighter of his time. Okay, that just shows you that in internal martial art, the importance is not how many technique or how many form you know, it's on the quality of motion. The same for Taichi. For example, Yang Banhou and Yang Shaohou, they are both famous for using the move Ban Lan Cui. Okay, we're gonna maybe talk about it later when we can do partner videos in the practical content. But just know that they both were famous for using Ban Lan Cui. And Yang Luchan himself, the founder of Yang Family Taiji, is famous for using Shou Hui Pi Ba Shi. So what that means is they actually focus all the attention on perfecting or mastering one motion. So to them, it's not a technique. If you just have one technique, it's easy to be countered. So for them, it's not a technique, it's a motion, it's a quality of power. And it can go up to a point where even if I tell you what motion or technique I'm going to do, and you know that I'm going to do this, you still can't stop it, right? An example of this you can find with that one of the most famous Baji practitioner or master, Li Shuwen, right? When he went to Shandong to teach in the Koshu Academy there, he was challenged by two of the local instructors that came before him, and he told them that he's going to do this palm strike to the ribs. The first guy didn't believe it, and his rib cracked. The second guy saw that, and I know he's not joking, and Li Shuwen still used the same technique. He tried to block it, and his arm either broke or dislocated, depending on different version of the story. So what this means is Li Shuwen won both fights using just one technique that he told his opponent ahead of time. And what this means is, in these structure, mechanic, and an internal based martial art, having a surprise technique or like a special technique does not matter. It's the quality of motion. And same goes for Yang family. So I would say anyone who believes in a secret form that makes you better doesn't know what he's doing, in terms of internal martial art. If you know the principles, you know the mechanics and everything, you don't even need 108 steps, right? For example, in my lineage, we practice either 24 or 37 moves, but we have to keep doing the same move over and over for a minimum of 2 hours. So the key is not how many moves you do, it's the amount of time you put in while doing them. Okay, obviously this isn't a video about my lineage, so we're going to talk about that at a different episode. So the point is, I don't believe in the whole claim that there are a second, third form that makes the Yang family complete, Yang family system, because that is, like I said, an external mentality, not internal. So overall, I don't believe in this whole claim that Wang Yannian has put forward. I'm also skeptical of the claim that Zheng Qinlin's branch claims in China, right? Especially the Wang Laisheng challenging Yang Chengfu and he stepped up part, and then the Yang Chengfu taught him a secret form part, and of course, even more so the later part where he met the Taoist guy who taught him the third form, who belongs to Yang Luchan. Supposedly Yang Luchan didn't even teach the third form to his son, but he taught to this Taoist priest who then passed down to Zheng Qinlin. Now I don't know if Zheng Qinlin himself made this up or made this claim, or people after him. So I can't fault Zheng Qinlin. Okay, I don't know who started this whole story. And again, this does not reflect on whether Zheng Qinlin was a good practitioner or not. That unfortunately we cannot see. But what I can say is there are no record of him going to the Shanxi province and become undefeated. There's no real evidence to support that. And there's no record of him going to Nanjing Guoshu Academy in 1928 and then winning the contest. Because in 1928, Nanjing Guoshu Academy had an examination, and the examination was only for members of the academy. Okay, it is not for everyone to come, right? People tend to get confused between the 1928 Nanjing Guoshu Academy's examination and the 1930s Hangzhou Leitai competition, right? Those two are separate events. In the Nanjing Guoshu Academy's event, they basically graded all the students at the academy at the time. There are very little record one can still find. So this comes from one record that someone claimed that he had researched and dug out from some archive. So I can't really be 100% certain on that, but according to the source, which is the best we can have at the moment, they basically did have like form contest and like weapon contest, weapon form contest. Some claim they are weapon fighting, but again, that's not confirmed. and there was some degree of hand-to-hand combat, but they did not have a winner or a loser. It wasn't a competition. They basically graded each student from 优、良、中、差, right? So these are the criteria. I think at the time it wasn't even a 优, it was just 良、中、差. 良 means good, 中 means okay, and 差 means bad. So they basically graded the students there by these three grades, 良、中、差. Okay. Later on, it became 优、良、中、差. 优 is like exceptionally good. But I think at the time in the Goshu Academy, it was just three grade, 良、中、差. So you could not have a winner of that tournament because there was no actual tournament. It was an examination. And there are so many people that I've came across that claim that their ancestor or their grandmaster or great grandmaster won the Nanjing Goshu contest, right? And all of them are basically talking nonsense. And people really like to do that because there's very little record that one can find about that event. Okay, so overall, like I said, the claim of the Taiwanese Michuan Yang family Taichi, I believe, is completely false. Again, the second and third form is completely BS. It doesn't mean that they don't know Taichi at all. It doesn't mean that Wang Yannian didn't learn General Wen Taichi from Zheng Qinlin. It doesn't mean Zheng Qinlin didn't learn General Wen Taichi from Yang Chengfu. But this whole claim of secret stuff, for me, is just a marketing scheme, right? It's just to grab attention and sell a product, which I believe is not a very good practice among Chinese martial arts. And of course, they are not the only one who's doing it. There's a lot of people doing a similar scheme to grab more students and grab more money. So this video is pretty targeted at the claim of lineage and history, and not reflecting the actual martial art. That part I don't know. I haven't seen enough to have an opinion. And even if I do, I don't think that's important in this series of video. Okay, so I hope this whole thing has made sense to you. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, please subscribe me on YouTube so I can get the latest content. And if you want to, you can also support me on Patreon. That will allow me to make better quality videos on a more constant basis. And again, I want to thank all my Patreon supporters. Your support is always very well appreciated. And I believe I again forgot to give a shout out to Nate Yeverton. Sorry if I'm butchering your pronunciation again. I really don't know how to pronounce these uncommon names and surnames. So shout out to Nate Yeverton and Christopher Chen for your support. Right, welcome to my Patreon family, and hope you enjoy the content. If you have any problems, feel free to contact me. As well as a shout out to everyone else that supports me on Patreon. Your help is always appreciated. So I hope you enjoyed this content, and next week we're gonna carry on with our examination into various Taichi controversial figures and stories and claims. Thanks for watching TriEssence Martial Arts channel. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay away from crowds, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.